Hi, my name is Amber, and I'm 25 years old. I never thought I'd be the kind of woman who gets erased from her own family's story. But here I am, telling mine, not because I want pity, but because I survived something most people can't even imagine, being calculated out of my own home, like a mistake on a spreadsheet. I grew up in a quiet suburb, in a two-story house with blue shutters and flower beds that Brenda, my stepmother, took too much pride in. My father Paul worked as a technician at the local utility company, quiet, steady, and always tired. He married Brenda when I was 10, after my mom passed away. I tried to adjust, really. Brenda had a son of her own, Jake. He was just a toddler when they married, and over time, I became less of a daughter and more of an inconvenience. On the surface, things seemed normal. I helped Brenda with laundry, cooked dinner a few nights a week, and tutored Jake through elementary school. But beneath that polite routine, I always felt the distance. She wasn't cruel, just cold. And Dad? He rarely challenged her. If Brenda said I was moody or ungrateful, he stayed silent. Then came the Tuesday afternoon that split my life in two. I had just returned home from work, part-time design assistant at a local architecture firm, when I saw Brenda and Dad sitting together in the living room. A stack of papers lay on the coffee table. Brenda's lips were tight, her eyes sharp with the same pinched expression she used when grocery bills were too high. "Amber," she said, "we need to talk." I remember laughing lightly. "Okay. What about?" She gestured to the stack of documents. "Finances." My smile faded. Brenda picked up the top paper and tapped it. "We've gone over everything. Jake is starting high school soon. His tutoring, his basketball gear, college fund, it's a lot. And, well, we can't keep spreading ourselves so thin." I blinked. "Are you serious right now?" Paul shifted uncomfortably. "We've talked about this a long time, sweetheart. Brenda's right. Things are tight." Tight. That was their word for it. Tight enough to let me go. Like I was an extra utility bill they could cancel. "You're 25, Brenda continued. "It's time you moved on. We've arranged for you to stay with your grandparents, Frank and Helen." My hands went cold. Arranged. Like a business deal. And just like that, I was no longer a daughter. I was a cost they had decided they no longer wanted to carry. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just stood there, stunned, as my own father avoided my eyes and Brenda kept talking like this was some normal family discussion. "We've already spoken to them," she added. "They're expecting you this weekend. The apartment above their garage is ready." Expecting me? I wasn't even part of the decision. I was an item passed from one household to another like borrowed furniture. "I'm not 17, I said, my voice tight. "You can't just send me away." Brenda's tone was sharp. "Amber, don't be dramatic. You're 25. It's not about sending you away. It's about reality." Reality. That was her favorite word when she wanted to shut down emotion. I left the living room without another word and went straight to my room. My mind spun, my heart pounding in my chest. My eyes drifted toward the dusty duffel bags under the bed, the same ones I used when I moved home after college. I pulled them out with shaking hands. As I packed, I found something folded inside the back of my closet, a yellow school district form with my name on it. Change of address. My stomach twisted as I scanned the details. It had Brenda's signature. And the date at the bottom? It was from 6 weeks ago. They had planned this long before telling me. I stood there frozen, the paper trembling in my hands, when a voice called from the hallway. "Don't forget your winter coat. It gets cold up there." Brenda, standing at my door, arms crossed like nothing was wrong. I didn't reply. I just kept packing, pushing down the ache growing in my chest. The next day, I moved in with Grandma Helen and Grandpa Frank. They greeted me with open arms and soft hugs, but I could see the tightness in Grandma's jaw when I handed her the address form. She read it twice. "She signed this weeks ago?" I nodded. Her lips thinned. "Oh, Amber." That evening, I overheard her in the kitchen, voice sharp on the phone. "How dare you, Brenda? Calculating her worth like she's a grocery bill? What kind of mother does that?" I didn't hear the rest. I didn't need to. I just sat on the worn leather sofa in the garage apartment, surrounded by suitcases and silence, realizing the truth. They hadn't decided I should go. They'd decided long ago I didn't belong. Grandma Helen knocked softly on my door later that night, holding a cup of hot chamomile tea and a chocolate chip cookie from the batch she always made when I was little. She didn't say much, just sat beside me for a few minutes, her hand on mine, warm and steady. That quiet support did something to me. It didn't make the pain disappear, but it reminded me I wasn't as alone as I felt. Still, I couldn't let this be the end of my story. The next morning, I woke up early, pulled my resume off my old laptop, and circled job listings in the local paper. I had a part-time job as a design assistant, but it wasn't enough for rent, food, student loans, and now I didn't even have a roof of my own. I found a listing for a junior CAD technician at a small architectural firm downtown. It was a stretch, but I had the basic drafting skills and 3 community college courses under my belt. I applied that afternoon, and, by some miracle, they called the next day. I wore my best black slacks, still folded in the suitcase, and borrowed one of Grandma's scarves to hide the stress circles under my eyes. The woman who interviewed me, Gloria, had fiery red curls and a firm handshake. She flipped through my resume with interest, asked about my precision, my time management, and my CAD familiarity. Then she looked me dead in the eye and said, "I don't usually hire entry-level this fast. What makes you think you're ready?" I answered without flinching. Because I have no other option but to succeed. I learn fast. I work harder than anyone else. And I won't quit. She stared at me for a beat too long, then smiled. "You start Monday. It's 30 hours a week for now. Pay's not glamorous, but it's better than coffee shop wages." I shook her hand again, with everything I had. That night, I sat in the garage apartment with a notebook in my lap, calculating my future the same way Brenda had calculated my exit. But where she had seen an expense, I saw a plan. Grandma knocked again just as I was totaling up my projected income. "You okay, sweetheart?" "I will be," I said. And for the first time in days, I almost believed it. The following week was a blur of action and exhaustion. I started the new job at Gloria's firm, working under a kind but detail-obsessed architect who taught me how to read blueprints like a second language. I kept my old part-time gig for evenings, remote drafting projects for local contractors, and started sleeping an average of 4 hours a night. Coffee became a food group. Headaches came in waves. But I was building something. Slowly. Day by day. One night, after my shift ended and I barely had dinner, I finally decided to text Brenda. Against my better judgment. "I need help filling out the FAFSA and student loan paperwork. The deadline's next week." I stared at the screen after pressing send, already knowing what not to expect. Apologies, warmth, concern. But I still wasn't prepared for what came back. "We're focused on Jake's future right now. Hope you understand." That was it. No greeting. No love you. No sorry. Just a cold rejection carved into pixels. My fingers trembled. My breath caught. And then, something inside me shattered. I slid down the wall of the apartment, the phone still clutched in my hand. For weeks I had been holding it together, through the move, the betrayal, the overtime hours. But this broke me. Hot tears streamed down my cheeks, silent at first, then ragged and uncontrollable. My sobs echoed off the walls. Not because I wanted Brenda's help. Not even because I needed it. But because the message confirmed it. I had officially been erased. They weren't just done parenting me. They were pretending I never existed. I don't know how long I stayed on the floor that night. I just remember that when I finally stood up, my eyes swollen and my chest aching, I walked to the desk, tore a page from my sketch pad, and wrote in bold, black pen, "I will never depend on people who treat me like I'm disposable." I taped it to the wall above my bed. A promise. A vow. From that moment on, I wasn't just surviving. I was reclaiming myself. From that night forward, something shifted in me. My focus became sharper, my nights more disciplined, my days more productive. I wasn't just trying to stay afloat anymore. I was building a raft that no one could sink. Gloria noticed the difference almost immediately. One Thursday morning, she called me into her office and shut the door behind me. "You look exhausted," she said bluntly. I gave a tired smile. "That's probably because I am." She tapped a folder on her desk. "You've been doing solid work. Not just technically sound, but precise, clean, and on schedule. That's rare." I nodded, unsure where this was going. Then she slid the folder toward me. "There's an internship opening with Carter and Wells. It's a major firm. Normally they take third-year students, but I recommended you." I blinked. "Me? You've earned it. And frankly, I think you understand real responsibility more than most full-time employees I've had." I left her office shaking. The folder trembled in my hands the entire way home. That night, I sat on my narrow bed and stared at it under the dim desk lamp. I hadn't had time to dream in months, but this felt like something close to hope. 2 weeks later, I got the call. I'd been selected. The internship paid a small stipend, but it opened doors, real ones. Within months, I was drafting on real projects, sitting in meetings, absorbing everything. I learned how to pitch ideas, how to negotiate, how to take ownership without apology, all while still working weekends and submitting my coursework at midnight. Grandpa Frank joked one night at dinner, "You got more jobs than the mayor." I laughed. But behind that laugh was a sense of steel. Because I knew what it took to stay here. Because I knew what it felt like to be thrown away. That memory kept me moving. Fueled every sleepless night. Every technical draft. Every A on an exam. Every single step forward. And it kept whispering in my ear, "Let them regret it." It was an ordinary Thursday evening, spring air thick with pollen, my backpack heavy with draft papers, when I stopped at the local grocery store for ramen and peanut butter. Cheapest calories per dollar. I was walking down the cereal aisle when I saw her. Brenda. Wearing a blue vest with the store logo, rearranging boxes of Cheerios on the shelf. Her back was turned, but I would have known that posture anywhere. Next to her stood Jake. Taller now, broader shoulders, a soft teenage roundness in his face. He fidgeted beside her, bored, humming under his breath. She looked up, and our eyes met. For a moment, time stopped. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. Her expression froze. She didn't speak. Jake looked between us. "Mom? Who's that?" Brenda's hand gripped the cereal box a little tighter. "Just someone I used to know." I blinked. Used to know. 2 years of breaking my back to survive. 2 years of late nights, early mornings, eating dollar menu meals and working 14-hour days. 2 years of being erased, and this was how she acknowledged me? Calm spread through me. Not rage, not sadness. Just clarity. I stepped forward. "No, Brenda. I'm not someone you used to know. I'm your daughter. The one you calculated out." A shopper glanced our way. Another slowed their cart, curious. Jake looked confused. "You're her daughter?" Brenda hissed. "Amber, not here." "Why not?" I asked. "Afraid they'll find out you kicked your own daughter out to balance your budget?" Jake's eyes widened. "You left us?" I looked at him, really looked at him, and said softly, "That's what they told you?" Then I turned back to Brenda. "Did you show him the spreadsheet? The one where I was an expense?" She grabbed Jake's hand and pulled him toward the end of the aisle. "We're leaving." I didn't stop her. I just stood there, strong, grounded. And for the first time, I didn't feel like the discarded one. I felt like the survivor. 2 years of constant motion finally slowed for a moment when I walked across the stage at my university graduation. The auditorium buzzed with camera clicks and family cheers, but I only heard the voices that mattered. From the left corner aisle, Grandpa Frank shouted, "That's our girl." Grandma Helen clapped with tears in her eyes. And Aunt Angela whistled so loud a row of parents turned. I felt a grin spread across my face as the dean handed me my diploma. Bachelor of Science in Architectural Technology, honors distinction. I didn't expect flowers. I didn't expect a message from Brenda or Paul. I certainly didn't expect them to be in the audience. And they weren't. No card. No call. Just like they'd taught me, I wasn't theirs anymore. But that day wasn't about them. It was about the people who chose me. After the ceremony, We all went to a small family restaurant. Grandma had made reservations a month in advance. She passed around homemade cards. Grandpa made his usual joke about how the only blueprint he could understand was a pizza box. Angela gifted me a pair of pearl earrings. "Every powerful woman needs her armor," she said, hugging me. Later that week, I received an email from Carter and Wells HQ. The subject line read, "Offer, Regional Project Director, Nashville Division." I reread it 3 times before I dared believe it. Starting salary, $122,000 a year. A private office. Full benefits. It was more than a job. It was proof that I hadn't just survived, I had become undeniable. Aunt Angela called, crying when I told her. "You did it, Amber," she said. "You built a life from scratch. They gave up on you, but you never did." And I hadn't. I had taken the same mindset Brenda used to push me out and used it to build my own foundation. It was a quiet Sunday afternoon when the doorbell rang at my new Brentwood apartment, a sleek corner unit with floor-to-ceiling windows and the faint smell of new wood and lemon oil. I assumed it was a neighbor or maybe a delivery I forgot I ordered. But when I opened the door, I froze. Brenda and Paul, standing on my welcome mat like ghosts from a past I had already buried. Brenda clutched her purse with white knuckles. Her once blonde hair was now streaked with gray, her frame thinner than I remembered. Paul stood beside her, silent and broad-shouldered, eyes scanning the interior behind me. "You look well," Brenda said softly. Paul didn't wait for an invitation. He stepped inside like he still belonged. "Nice place," he muttered, glancing at the leather sectional, the minimalist decor, the framed blueprint sketches on my wall. "Very nice." I didn't move from the door. "What are you doing here?" Brenda finally stepped inside, following Paul with hesitant steps. "We've been trying to reach you," she said, voice uneven. "No, you haven't," I replied. "Not once in 2 years." There was a pause. Then Paul cleared his throat and delivered the reason they'd come. "Jake's starting college this fall," he said, his voice slipping into the same tone they used when discussing taxes or car repairs. "Tuition's gone up. We thought since you're doing well, maybe you could help." The audacity knocked the breath out of me. "Help," I repeated slowly. Brenda nodded. "I raised you for 13 years, Amber. Don't act like you owe us nothing." My hands curled into fists, but my voice stayed calm. "You calculated me out of your budget, remember? You called it a financial decision. A spreadsheet." Paul crossed his arms. "That was different. We had to prioritize." "For Jake," I said. "Always Jake." He didn't deny it. I stepped back toward the door and pulled out my phone. Brenda's eyes narrowed. "What are you doing?" "Calling police," I said flatly. "You're not welcome here." "You wouldn't," Paul challenged. "Try me." I stared him down as I spoke to the dispatcher. "Hi, this is Amber Rhodes. I have 2 uninvited visitors at 8:45 Crestview Lane who are refusing to leave my property." Brenda began to cry. Paul's face flushed. When the police arrived 6 minutes later, I watched through the window as they escorted my former parents out of my apartment building, Brenda sobbing, Paul arguing about rights and family. But that door had closed years ago. And this time, I was the one doing the calculations. 1 week later, my phone vibrated on the glass coffee table while I was preparing presentation slides for a new commercial space project. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. Probably another spam call or warranty scam. But something nudged me to answer. "Hello," I said cautiously. A pause. Then a young male voice replied, hesitant but familiar. "Is this Amber Rhodes?" I straightened. "Who's asking?" "This is Jake. Jake Andrews. Your half-brother." My heart stopped. Jake. The boy they had prioritized. The reason I was erased. "This isn't some trick from Brenda or Paul, is it?" I said, my voice suddenly firm. "No, I swear. They don't know I'm calling. I got your number from Aunt Angela. I had to convince her I wasn't spying for them." I sat down slowly on the couch. "Why are you calling me now?" Jake took a shaky breath. "I found something. In the attic." Dad asked me to clean out some boxes. I found the spreadsheet. The one where they— He stopped, swallowed. Where they decided to cut you out, like a utility bill. His voice cracked. And for a moment, I could hear that little boy I used to read bedtime stories to. They told me you left us. That you didn't want us. That you chose to move out. Tears stung my eyes, but I kept them back. They lied, Jake. I know that now, he whispered. And I'm angry. They didn't just erase you. They rewrote the story. Silence stretched between us, filled with the weight of all the years gone. I'd like to meet you, he said. If you'd let me. I hesitated. Letting Jake back in meant lowering the walls I had built so carefully. But something in his voice, the honesty, the hurt, the need to know the truth, broke through. All right, I said slowly. There's a coffee shop near Franklin Square. Neutral territory. Jake let out a breath like he'd been holding it the whole call. Thank you, Amber. Really? After I hung up, I sat staring at the blank wall, the spreadsheet from years ago flashing in my mind like a ghost. Maybe it was time to replace that memory with something real. 3 days later, I arrived 20 minutes early at the cafe near Franklin Square. I picked a corner table with my back to the wall. Old habit. I scanned the door every few seconds, wondering if I'd made a mistake. But when it opened, I knew it was him instantly. Jake. Taller. More mature. Same crooked cowlick near his temple. He had our father's eyes, and just a hint of mine. He spotted me, paused, then gave a soft, unsure smile as he walked over. Hey, he said, sliding into the chair across from me. I've been waiting a long time to know my sister. My throat tightened, but I nodded. You found me. That counts for something. We talked for hours. He told me about high school, about how weird things got at home once I left, about the questions that never had answers. And I told him my story, the real version. He listened. Every word. No interruptions. No defenses. Just a young man trying to fill the gaps in his heart. 2 weeks later, I hosted a small dinner at my apartment. I cooked rosemary chicken, just like Grandma Helen taught me. The scent filled the space, warm and grounding. Frank and Helen arrived first. Grandpa with his polished cane, Grandma with sweet potato casserole and a soft, proud smile. Angela came next with a bottle of wine and a wink. Promotion and a dinner party? Look at you, Miss Regional Director. Then Jake showed up, holding a small paper bag. He stepped inside carefully, as if the walls might remember what our family had once done. I brought dessert, he said. It's nothing fancy. It's more than enough, I replied, taking it with both hands. As dinner unfolded, laughter returned to my table. Frank told the story of how I once tried to build a tree fort and drilled through a rain gutter. Grandma teased me about sneaking marshmallows before dinner. Angela toasted, to strength born from silence. And Jake, he listened, laughed, and belonged. Not because we shared blood, but because he chose to be there. After dessert, I handed Angela a sealed envelope. What's this? She asked. Just open it. Inside was a 4-day reservation to the Grand Canyon Lodge. Angela gasped. Amber, this is too much. It's exactly right, I said. You showed up when you didn't have to. You loved me when it cost you nothing, and that made it priceless. She hugged me so tightly I couldn't breathe. Later that night, as we all said our goodbyes and the apartment grew quiet again, I stood on the balcony with a warm mug in hand, watching the Nashville skyline shimmer in the dark. My phone buzzed. A text from Jake. Thanks for letting me be part of your life. I typed back. Family isn't about obligation. It's about choice. And I meant every word, because I had finally built something unshakable. Not just a career, not just a home, but a family that chose to stay. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of your worth, or if it made you realize that real family is the one that chooses you, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. There are more true-to-life stories coming your way, because healing begins when the truth is finally told.